Is the new chic. We're going to be talking about an unconventional new fashion trend that is gaining popularity and is turning the idea of beauty, the very notion of perfection, on its head entirely. We're going to provide you with style insights, and we have Janvi Bhatia and Muskan Rawat joining us to bring us more context on what fashion's new look is all about.
Also in Mumbai, Mannat gets new neighbours. Ranveer and Deepika's swanky new pad is revealed and they are going to be living. This power couple is going to be getting a powerful address right next to that of King Khan, Shah Rukh Khan. Alright, it's Friday as they say, and have you made your plans yet? Chances are that if you're single and looking to meet some interesting people, you would probably turn to apps, right? Wrong. If the latest trends are anything to go by, not just in India and across the globe, then Gen Z are done with the swipe culture. They seem to have had enough of dating apps and surprise, surprise, swapping them with something more old-fashioned, more old school, asking friends and family to find them the right match.
And can you really blame these 20-somethings? After taking a ride, see, they've gone through all the stages. You have situationships, we all are familiar with the idea of hookups, the constant heartbreak that comes there with putting your heart out and then getting rejected again and again. This generation is ready to swipe left on dating apps and look for more offline real-world connections. So while Gen Z might have strayed from the traditional path, they might be saying goodbye to dating apps, they're also saying hello, it seems, to matrimony the traditional way. It seems the youngest generation is over the endless scrolling altogether.
In fact, generally speaking, it's not just Gen Z. Dating apps seem to be losing their appeal with daters all across ages. There's an increasing feeling that the algorithms are not helping them find out what they really want in life. So, how did we get here? Is there a digital fatigue? Or maybe we are just not ready to settle, or perhaps ready to settle down with no games attached. What exactly are we saying? Let's bring in our guest then.
So first up, we have Riya Modi. Riya's a media professional. She's a true blue Gen Zer. She's turned her back on dating apps for a more serious match. Riya, we're going to ask you more in just a second, but let's also tell our audiences we also have with us Banuj Sharma. He's a 32-year-old young ex-banker. He's a marketer and he's seen it all. He's tried all of the apps, he's considered the pros and cons, and now he has some pretty strong opinions about them. We're excited to get to know, Banuj, what your opinions are in just a second. But Riya, first tell us, we want to ask you, there's a sense sometimes, and this is a conversation you'll have with a lot of younger men, that dating apps are tilted in women's favor altogether. To be an attractive woman is of a higher advantage when you're on apps, you'll get more matches, but you're a woman who's decided to stay away. So what led to that thought process? Was it a long time coming? Tell us a little bit.
So you always, obviously it's a little bit of a perk when you are a woman on a dating app. You generally get a lot of matches, but are they genuine? Most of them felt too casual, too fleeting. So that is why when you start seeing a lot of matches, it actually puts you off. That these are just similar connections and you can't find the actual ones within the greater lot.
Okay, so you're saying that's the reason.
Okay. Banuj, can we come to you next? Like we said, that it doesn't seem to be a question, this fatigue of just constantly being on apps. Also, I think there is this constant point of rejection or being ghosted that I keep hearing more and more people talk about, and that seems to be the one thing that is really driving people away. Is that the reason why daters across ages now are saying that perhaps, listen, apps might not be really the right place to find the right person? All right, let me check if this is actually getting there right. But Riya, if I can come back to you and get that straight. At what point did you decide that this is it? that I just cannot do this anymore? If I have to meet people, I rather just meet somebody organically.
So, you know, how people portray on social media or the dating apps is not how they are. They look all fine, they'll talk all nice because you have different apps to get a reply and get an option on the reply. But when you actually go and meet them, there's this quote that I use it with my friends. It's in Hindi, where I say that they look all nice, but जैसे ही मुंह खोलते हैं, चिल्लर गिर जाते हैं. So basically,
Okay.
so basically, they not always have this thing what they project themselves, and they are a lot more different when they come out and meet.
Okay, let's just ask.
I see. I see.
Let's just ask Bhanuj. I think we've been able to connect with him now. Bhanuj, just tell our audiences a little bit about because we were hearing from Riya, who's also with us on the show. She's of course a girl, so or a woman, and she was telling us about her dating experiences, why she's decided to step away. Bhanuj, tell us, how many years have you been using dating apps for? Have you tried? Because there are a few options. There's Tinder, there's Hinge, there's Bumble. There are even more options, but those are the largest three that you see most people gravitate towards. Did you try all of them before you decided ye nahi karna? What was your journey?
So you always go to your ref group for a word of mouth, which dating app is better. So obviously you want to share out the creeps. So I believe Hinge is one of a good Gen Z app that gives you very quality data. Plus, I believe they are just judging your demographics so that they can give you a better match according to your right swipes. So they are giving you right swipes according to your past experiences, but I don't know, that is breaking the ice because going to the earlier age is more of because Gen Z gets monotonous every second. So they feel like, oh, I'm getting bored, or it's just the same template that I'm using too. So they have this FOMO all the time that, oh, I'm lacking behind. My friend have a great spouse, or maybe they are dating well, or the guy they are meeting is obviously better. So they are just leaving behind the fear of being late is drying them off.
I see. That's interesting that a lot of comparisons are sort of coming in thanks to, again, social media. So we keep sort of putting a finger back on that. Good, bad, ugly demon, you want to call it what you like. But let's bring in a more perspective on the program. We have an emotional intelligence facilitator, an organizational psychologist as well, and a life coach, Akshay, joining us on the program. We also have with us Murugavel Janaki Raman. He's the founder and CEO of matrimony.com, the matchmaker who's been making it possible. And if trends are anything to go by, like we said in our introduction, it's not just that Gen Z is getting anti-dating apps, which many seem to believe, not my words, that have become hookup apps. And now matrimonial apps is where a lot of younger 20-somethings and older Gen Z, if you can, call it them that, are sort of going to find partners. Firstly, I just want to understand as a trend, Murugavel, from you, is that really happening? Have you seen more and more younger people sort of prescribe? There used to be a time back in the day when parents would sort of force you to get on these matrimonial apps. But now do you see more sort of, younger people get in there?
Oh, thank you, Sonal, for the interesting program. See, we have been running a matrimony site for more than 2 decades. 2 decades ago, it was the parents use the matrimony sites. The trend has completely changed. Today, more than 70% of the profiles are created by individuals themselves. That has been a trend for the probably last maybe 5 years or so. So it has to do with the strong acceptance of the online matrimony sites. Literally, the millions of people got married through our matrimony sites. We run almost 200 plus matrimony sites. Today, matrimony sites are seen as a more credible, more trustworthy. That is a go-to platform for someone to find a life partner. Because the reasons why the matrimony sites are the most popular, because the intent is very clear here. Someone creating a profile on matrimony site is they want to get married. Unlike dating site, you don't know what is the intention. So intent is very clear. Second thing is that today it's beautifully adopted to the Indian culture in a way that See, what happened in the last 30 years, the parents moved from a driver's seat into a passenger seat thanks to the changing socioeconomic status and changing social preferences. Today, youngsters are take the decision. So the matrimony sites, it's beautifully, fit into these things. But today, youngsters are creating a profile, talking to the prospects whom they like, then the parents do get involved. So it just pretty much fits with the Indian culture. So it has acceptance from the youngsters as well as from the parents. As that has been the trend. And dating has never been Indian culture. So India, what used to happen? People fall in love and get married. The dating is more of exploratory. So it's more like let's explore and see whether it's going to work out. And again, Tinder has completely messed up the whole category because it's made this category from serious into a casualness. So dating cannot be casualness. It's not such mindless swiping of things. It's not an object. You are not buying a product. It's not Instagram. You want to meet someone, you want to get married to someone means you need to see much more information, not seeing the profile picture alone to decide. I think it's because of the casualness that Tinder has brought in.
Gurukul, can I just say that everything that you're saying on air right now has to be taken with a pinch of salt because you're clearly running a matrimonial app. So all your points, that interesting driver seat and passenger seat is an interesting analogy for parents and matrimonies. But it has to be, taken with a bit of a pinch. Toya had a question for Akshay. Yeah.
No, but I do love your point. Let's kind of go ahead with that. Akshay, tell us, because I do want to push back on that idea that, Indians don't like dating, Indians don't date. I think in a lot of our metro cities, Delhi, Bombay, there is a Bangalore, there's a big dating culture. So I just want to ask you, Akshay, do you think it is, as we were just discussing, a dating versus marriage thing? Or when it comes to Gen Z, Akshay, and that's where I really want you to come in. One of the things that scientists, experts say they are observing is a change in the way Gen Z interacts with the world around them. This is a generation that, as we've said over the last few years, saw COVID. They grew up with their phones being their source of education. Perhaps they interact with the people around them differently. I just want to understand from you, Akshay, how much of it do you think is that? A change in the way they socialize, that being connected to dating, this being the result of that, versus what we were discussing earlier?
There are multiple facets to this, to be very honest, because dating inherently, of course, I think dating's been very popular for at least the last 7-8 years, if I'm not wrong. Much before COVID, dating was still dating apps was still pretty prominent. But I think dating apps inherently are not an issue, right? But the problem which comes with it is this particular psychological phenomenon called the paradox of choice. The paradox of choice basically means, where too many options leads to dissatisfaction, anxiety, and all that, right? So, the whole fundamental basis of this concept called the paradox of choice is the two concepts. One is called the maximizers, and another one is called the satisficers. Which is maximizers. There are two types of people in this world, right? There are one which is the maximizers, who are the type of people who look for as many options as possible because they want to make the best possible decision. They want to get the best possible choice out of the lot. And which is exactly what happens on dating apps, especially because the metrics on which you match with someone on a dating app is very different compared to the metrics that you match with someone on a matrimony website, right? So you're overloaded with choices. So if you're a maximizer, you're constantly looking at all these options. You might be finding someone that you actually connect with, but your mind is always going, okay, but what if I also have someone else better waiting for me? What if I find the next best choice? So that becomes an extremely bad loop that you fall into. So no matter how much people are connecting, and I see this challenge happen a lot lately, which is you're connecting with people, but you're always thinking, what if the next person is a lot better? So in dating apps, the culture is sort of shifting towards, I'm not saying that people don't find love. People do find love on dating apps. I know people who have gotten married on dating apps, but the more frequent thing is the constant comparison of, okay, am I going to find someone better next? So that stops the connection from happening. That's why people might be moving to the matrimony sites. I don't know how much COVID has to do with it, but the second type of people, as I said, right, one was the maximizers and another one is the satisficers, right? Satisficers are the type of people who have extremely high standards, right? You have extremely high standards, like you as a person are someone who knows exactly what you want. You have a certain criteria for yourself because you know who you are and who you like. So you do not necessarily care about finding what's the best option out there. You're trying to find out what's the best option for you. So once you find out find someone who meets that criteria, you're happy, right? So that's the kind of difference that and the scientific data also shows, and it's actually from a very popular book called The Paradox of Choice by Bobby Schwartz. So it says that the people when as maximizers, when you're looking at so many options, you grow extremely anxious and you grow extremely dissatisfied, even though you made the choice. Because even if you made the choice, you're worried if you made the right one. But as a satisfizer and you have high standards,
Yeah.
you have made the choice and you're happy, right? So I think that's something to think about.
Yeah, it is. It's quite fascinating actually. But actually, tell us, this in this circus called modern dating, where there are so many options, there are so many ways in which one can look at, isn't it somewhere sort of stemming in from loneliness? I keep hearing more and more from younger colleagues, younger friends around me, where they say that, it's not just rejection, it's not just being ghosted on these dating apps, it's not just that. It's the point that somebody is actually swiping left and right. So has that sort of got something to do with where we are at?
So I think there are multiples to this. Again, I'm speaking as a psychologist because there's no black and white, right? There's always so much happening in the middle. So the thing is, I believe that yes, loneliness also draws people to dating apps, but dating apps also tend to make people feel lonelier than they really are. Like, how often have you, if you have ever downloaded an app yourself, and let's just say that you're single, you were pretty happy, you were not really seeking for love, but you constantly get these notifications from those apps. Now, I'm not dissing dating apps, right? Because they, like anything else, are a business and they want to keep their users hooked and they want to earn money, right? Fair play to them. But that sometimes come at the cost of making people feel inadequate. It may comes at the cost of making people feel like, hey, you know what if you find the next best person? Like, someone has liked you, please subscribe to our premium and find out who likes you, So that makes you feel curious. You're like, oh, maybe someone does like me, maybe I should find out, maybe I will lose out. And that creates this sense of urgency, and then that also sometimes makes you feel a lot lonelier and makes you feel more anxious to find someone. But at the same time, yes, loneliness also draws people to dating apps, right? And also infidelity, right? It's such a big issue, and it's becoming more and more prominent also because of dating apps in a certain sense. Because you earlier you didn't have the option to find people. It's not like infidelity didn't exist before; it did, but you didn't have the same kind of choice. You didn't have the same amount of options to cheat on your partner back then as much as you have today. Like today, I can have a extremely poor argument or one bad week with my wife, and I can instantly go in the corner and download this app, try to find someone, match with someone, and try to take my dissatisfaction away. So there is very low resistance happening over here. So all of this is a loop. There's so many multiple factors to this.
There's
I hope I didn't.
There's also the interesting fact that I think we're talking about dating apps right now, but so many are now using Instagram as a dating app, So you'll have other apps that are almost being used in this manner. But I just want to go to Murugavel once more and ask him, Murugavel, just because you have the hard data, I just want to understand from you. We are right now talking of a larger shift that we're seeing Gen Z is making. And so bring us some of the data. What is Gen Z, the Gen Z people who are using your website? What are they looking for? And is there a difference in, for example, the main search terms they're looking for from what people were looking for 10 years ago? What is that difference?
See, we as a matrimony site, very well known among India, we continue to evolve with the changing trends. One of the recent features that you introduced was you can find your life partner based on hobbies and interests. So that's one of the probably preference of youngsters. I want to go back my earlier point. So we also understand, okay, most of our users are about maybe 24 and above. We pretty much cater to the people who are serious to find a life partner. Having said that, we also understand that a lot of users or youngsters want to fall in love and get married. Again, when they say dating is a more of metro thing, it's not across India. But India, people fall in love. We are launching a separate brand called love.com, that is LUV.com. That's going to help people to find meaningful love. So it's going to address all the problem of ghosting, where you can have only limited number of conversations you can have at any point of time. We do understand as a matrimony cater to the serious people who want to get married, ready for marriage, come and get married. As I told you, you get married.
Right.
There are almost close to 10 million people on our matrimony sites. You find a life partner. But as I said, There are youngsters, you're talking Gen Z, they want to take some time, a little longer, but they want to fall in love, they want to meet and
But
understand. And
Murugava, can I interrupt there and say this? When you put it like that, it just sounds like the business of love. It's very, very hard to sort of figure out how this will actually happen. And my basic issue, and can I flag it off, and this is for anybody on the panel to actually answer, is it's the filtration process. It's not like if dating apps, people are getting ghosted. On matrimonies, there are no, sort of false claims happening or no scams taking place either. So what is the process within the fraternity when it comes to apps or matrimony, dating apps or love apps or matrimony, call it what what you may, of filtering that the information being put out is the right one? Isn't that a major cause of concern?
yeah, let me take a matrimony side, Sonal. We take a lot more information, and it's not the decision based on just looking at the photo, like a swiping and all. And you again in the matrimony side, the matches are happening based on various criteria from religious, language, community, and socioeconomic status, the preference, and they do a lot of validation. Each and every profiles are mobile verified. You do a ID verification process, and if anything get flagged, users say that this person sends any photo. Again, that user may be very very small, because the people want to scam, people want to do this kind of ghosting. There's so many dating apps are there, non-serious sites. Because the matrimony sites evolved as a serious sites, the people who are very serious come to matrimony site. Again, we do have the various algorithm mechanism to weed out these non-serious users, because a validation process, a tracking process, or if anyone flags any profile, we get into the details and weed out those profile or permanently block those users and coming back again. So matrimony said we take a lot more steps to ensure that we have only those who are serious about finding a life partner on the platform. So which may not be the case of global dating sites,
Okay.
because they are looking at more users. They are not looking at all this validation criteria. They are looking at user swiping. And as Akshay said, it's more like hooking the person to the
Okay.
platform with the hope that they can able to find a thing, which may not happen.
Okay, let's just go over to Akshay to understand where this is all headed. Akshay, tell us, we are tracking, say, and there is this trend that people, Gen Z kids in particular, are staying away from dating apps. We're seeing matrimony sites might be one of the things that people are going towards. But Akshay, tell me, what else are we seeing? Apart from that, are we seeing the emergence? I know that, for example, in Bangalore, we're seeing a big growth of subcultures. You're seeing a growth of communities, for example, built around different hobbies. You were talking about this a little earlier, that hobbies are the new thing to collect and connect young people. What are you observing, Akshay?
I don't necessarily know if people are staying away from dating apps, but I think people are at one point, right? Like, it's not like, again, casual dating has existed in the past as well, just as not as frequently as it is today. I feel like people are not straying away from dating apps, because I do find a lot of people on dating apps, but I think people's approach towards dating is slightly changing, right? Because at one point in the past,
Yeah.
people did not know the psychological repercussions of crazy cycle of dating, right? You constantly see people, you have casual relationships with them, and every relationship that goes on takes a little bit of you over and over and over again. And I'm sure all of you resonate with it, and a lot of people listening will resonate with this. So I feel like that in general has become something of awareness, and people are realizing what mindless swiping, mindless dating, meeting people who are not even for them, ends up into so much hurt at the same time. So I think people are realizing that, okay, so Professor Dr. Jordan Peterson also says this very beautifully, right? The whole idea of casual dating is conscious practice of detachment. The more longer you date someone with the strong intention that you do not want to actually see through a relationship with them, you are actually subconsciously practicing detachment, where you're trying to take away your feelings away from a relationship, which is how a real relationship, according to culture, is supposed to be like. So when you ultimately do find the right person, you just don't feel strong enough to keep up with the relationship, so you keep running away from it. So I think the younger generation is also, the woke culture, the woke generation, exposed to so much information, is realizing that at some level. So I feel like that culture in general is slowly shifting. People are realizing it's becoming a toxic trait to constantly look for partners, because it's like an addiction, right? It's a drug addiction. You have fun while you're doing them, but right after you're done with it, you very seldom look back into it with a lot of happiness. you always look back with some amount of regret. I feel like that's also happening with casual dating. So, that's the shift that I'm seeing in terms of mentality. But I wouldn't really say that like the younger generation is not using dating apps anymore and everyone's using matrimony. But I can vouch for why a matrimony would be a better choice than a dating app when it comes to looking for a serious
Yeah.
relationship. Because as Sir mentioned, and
Yeah.
it's this is context is that's everything, right? Like one of my teachers taught me this. Context is like the most important thing. Then content follows. If you set up your room in a way that is helps you be productive, it's if your desk is clean, if everything is nice, you have a couple of plants, then you feel like working. The same thing happens with a dating app versus a matrimony app, right? So I feel like in a matrimony app's setup is so much better, and in terms of promoting real relationships versus a dating app. But
Okay.
yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Let's just go 1 second back to
I
our
think-
case studies. Bhanuj is
Yeah.
also with us. Riya is also with us still. Bhanuj, I do want to ask you, and I hope it's all right. I'll just bring up your age for a second. You're 32. You were talking a little bit about having tried different apps. What's the plan now for you?
So, like, obviously, I'm going to the traditional way. Like, I've given all the tasks to my parents, and I believe that is the better and fixed way of finding love. Because obviously, ending up in an arranged marriage and is a kind of a trauma to the young generation or whatsoever you call 28 to 32. But also I believe with these dating apps and all these matrimonial apps, this adding to cart is the culture. Like we are socially shopping, like swiping right and left and not answering to the candidates. So I've seen a lot of women who are like, yeah, I'm dating him. If this falls back, I might date him, the other guy, or even the guys are doing like this. They're going for always looking for a better option. So the fear of losing behind or you losing a better opportunity is there with Gen Z and everybody. So they just want to
Yeah. Yeah.
do better, 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 better.
Yeah, but Riya, a lot of what Bhanuj is saying has been answered by Akshay as well. But, let me give you the last word. As the woman youngest, sort of panelist on the program today, at this point, if it's Friday and how I open the show, if you were to go out and want to meet some interesting people and dating apps are not an option, what do you do then?
So, to be very honest, dating apps have actually changed their what I'll say is their agenda. Because it means something else to different people. When we go to a different city for a vacation or something, this concept in the US called holidating, where people just date for the holiday
Yeah.
season and then they don't. So it's similar like that when you go to a different city, you just download the app and you go out, meet people, and there's nothing involved. It's just a nice interaction, you vibe with them, and then you come back. And other than that, there are a lot of events also that keeps happening, like swipe right or um, Tinder date or dating, all these, there are actually events that happen where you go out and meet people and they have this one-on-one interaction called speed dating. So that is also there if you if you are looking for to meet someone because they filter out a lot of people and everything. And otherwise, there are a lot of events that keep happening. You go to open mics or you go to different cafes. There are different type of events like the pottery, sip and paint. These are much more attractive things where you meet a bunch of people and not just one or single person. So you can gain the perspective, like you can know them over a period of time of an hour or two and understand how they are, their behavior, and then approach them if you really want to have a conversation later.
Okay, Riya, thank you for illustrating that
All
for
right.
us. New frameworks that are coming
we leave it
about
there.
for
Yeah,
people to discover each
yeah.
other.
It's the business of love, Toya, isn't it? And I'm just so glad that I found someone before this entire gaming business and dating business got into being, because this sounds so chaotic. But on that note, I think we're going to slip into a break. And what have we got on the other side?
Right, coming after the break, let's go from romance to the world of entertainment. We'll shift focus. After the break, Manat's new neighbors, Deepika and Ranveer, have got a swanky pad, and we finally have a look at the visuals.
लगा हुआ है हमारी प्रायोरिटी तंत्र की और सरकार की, क्योंकि विश्वामित्री नदी बड़ौदा के अंदर से गुजरती है और दोनों तरफ बीचों बीच से गुजरती है, तो दोनों तरफ ये पानी फैल गया है। करीबन 10-12 फीट से लेके 3-4 फुट तक 1.5-2.5 किलोमीटर तक ये पानी चला गया है।
Well, this breaking input is also pertinent to the intensifying situation in Gujarat pertinent to the heavy rainfalls. Now, PM Modi has dialed to the Gujarat CM Bhupendra Patel and said that PM is all set to give guidance on matters including sanitation and public health in the flooded areas and to restore public life quickly, and once again assured all kind of support from the central government. So these are the latest inputs that we are tracking from the ground at this point of time, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stepped in, offering guidance and assurances of central support to mitigate the entire crisis. Now, joining us on the broadcast is our colleague from News18 India, Deepika. A very good morning, Deepika. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। बाढ़ से कितने लोग अभी तक प्रभावित हुए हैं और नुकसान की क्या सीमा नापी जा रही है बाय द अथॉरिटीज ऑन द ग्राउंड?
बिल्कुल, खास तौर पे बड़ौदा की बात की जाए, द्वारका और जामनगर की बात की जाए, तो ये 3 जो जिले हैं वहाँ पे सबसे ज्यादा बारिश की वजह से इम्पैक्टेड एरिया है। आपको ये बता दें कि खासतौर पे पीएम इस पूरे मामले में सीएम से जुड़े हुए हैं, लगातार फोन इन हो रहा है और ब्यूरोक्रेट से कई सारे अधिकारी हैं वो इस पूरे मामले में जुड़े, कि जिस तरीके से नो कैजुअलिटी कैंपेन गुजरात सरकार का चल रहा है और इसी के बीच कई सारे लोगों को बचाया जा रहा है। एनडीआरएफ की टीम है, लगातार पूरी रात मोरबी में भी थी, मोरबी में कई लगातार उन्होंने कई सारे लोगों को रेस्क्यू किया। ऑलमोस्ट अभी बात की जाए तो 5000 से भी ज्यादा लोगों को रेस्क्यू किया गया है, क्योंकि जिस तरीके से जहाँ पे पानी भराव है, जल भराव है, वहाँ पे सबसे ज्यादा इफेक्टिव जो अगर गुजरात की बात की जाए तो 5 से 6 जिले हैं वो सबसे ज्यादा इफेक्टिव एरिया है। सबसे ज्यादा द्वारका की बात की जाए, द्वारका, जामनगर, मोरबी, राजकोट एंड बड़ौदा, ये 5 जो जगह है जहाँ पे सबसे ज्यादा पानी की वजह से, जल भराव की वजह से कई सारे लोगों इफेक्टेड एरिया है और वहाँ पे गांव के लोग सबसे ज्यादा इफेक्टेड है। कई सारे लोगों के खेत है वो पानी में बह चुके हैं। पानी जहाँ पे खेत थे वहाँ पे जैसे कि सी फेज पूरा बन चुका है, उसके हिसाब से आर्मी को भी यहाँ पे बुलाया गया है। भूपेंद्र पटेल जो गुजरात के सीएम है वो लगातार इस पूरे मामले में पीएम से फोन से बातचीत करे। पीएम भी पूरे मामले में किस तरीके से नो कैजुअलिटी कैंपेन चल रहा है, तो कोई भी एक भी बंदा कैजुअलिटी के हिसाब से नहीं कुछ होना चाहिए, उसके हिसाब से पीएम ने लगातार जो भी केंद्र से सहाय भेज रहे तो वो भी सबसे बड़ी बात है।
जी दीपिका, हमें ये भी समझाने की कोशिश कीजिए कि लगातार सिंस गुजरात के सीएम भी प्रधानमंत्री मोदी के मार्गदर्शन में और उनसे जुड़े हुए हैं, स्पेशली इन बाढ़ स्थितियों को लेकर, ऐसे कौन से विशिष्ट उपाय हैं जो ऑन ग्राउंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन अभी कर रही है टू अवॉइड सर्टेन मोर सिचुएशन अनफोल्डिंग?
जैसे कल ही मैंने देखा एनडीआरएफ की जो टीम थी उन्होंने टेक्नोलॉजी के हिसाब से कैसे करने का उसका ऐसा साधन बनाया है, अगर दूर 10 फुट भी कोई बाढ़ में है तो उसको खींच कर वो वापस ले आएगा। तो टेक्नोलॉजी के सहारे भी माना जा रहा है कि एनडीआरएफ की जो टीम है वो काम कर रही है। एनडीआरएफ के साथ ही साथ आर्मी की टीम भी यहाँ पे भेजी गई है केंद्र सरकार से कुछ मदद हेल्थ और सैनिटाइजेशन की वजह से, खासतौर यहाँ पे लोगों को मदद मिल रही है। कई सारे उद्योगपति हैं जो गुजरात से जुड़े हुए हैं, तो वो भी फूड वितरण जो होता है तो वो फूड जो जहाँ पे इफेक्टेड एरिया
Welcome back. It's time to take you through stories from India and across the globe. And this one is coming in from Afghanistan, where Afghan women activists there inside and outside the country have published videos of themselves on social media and signing revolutionary songs against the strict morality laws that were formally codified by the Taliban last week.
Afghan women inside and outside of the country are singing on social media to protest against the Taliban's strict morality laws that were formally codified last week. Referring to a supposed time in the future when the laws are lifted, one anonymous woman sings, "Will you seal the silence of my mouth until the second order? You made me a prisoner in my home for the crime of being a woman." The 35-article morality law ranges from requiring women to cover their entire bodies and faces, and men to grow beards, to banning drivers from playing music or transporting women without a male guardian, a spokesman from the Justice Ministry said. The rules were based on a 2022 decree by the Taliban's supreme spiritual leader Haibatullah Akhundzada. The Taliban suspended Afghanistan's previous constitution when they took over in 2021 as foreign forces withdrew and said they would rule the country according to Islamic Sharia law. Their restrictions on women and freedom of expression have drawn sharp criticism from human rights groups and many foreign governments since. Activist Hoda Khamosh spoke to Reuters from Norway.
During these 3 years of Taliban rule in Afghanistan, they've had many plans to eliminate women, starting with the schools and universities, then taking work away from women. Now that the world does not officially recognize them, they are pressuring women. They want the world to recognize them by forcing women to adapt to their plans.
Western capitals led by Washington have said the path to formal recognition of the Taliban is largely stalled until they reverse course on women's rights and open high schools to girls. The Taliban say they respect women's rights in accordance with their interpretation of Islamic law and local customs, and that they are internal matters and should be addressed locally. Morality ministry officials have been monitoring Afghans through the country for alleged offenses for the past 3 years. The ministry said this week that in the past year, it had detained over 13,000 people, though it did not break down the alleged offenses or gender of the detainees. It said around half of the detentions were for 24 hours.
All right, quite shocking that this is happening in one part of the world, while on the other, women are breaking norms, even fashion norms, even beauty norms. So what are we talking about? Is a massive pivot of a story where we are talking about a fashion phenomena that's shaking up the style scene. Ugly fashion trends, believe it or not. From sauce-stained shirts to stopper boots to bleached eyebrows, what was once deemed as ugly is now making waves on the runway as well. It's all about embracing the unconventional, the bold, and the downright rebellious. But is the ugly the new chic, or is it just a passing phase?
Right, to break it all down for us, to tell us exactly what ugly fashion is, and to tell us a little bit more about what it means for our culture. Are we saying goodbye to the male gaze? Are we centering what is authentic? To talk a little bit more about that, we have with us two fabulous fashion influencers who are with us on a show. They know a thing or two about setting trends. Let's introduce you to both of them. First up, we have Janvi Bhatia. She's the go-to fashion girl when it comes to a guide for practical style. So how should you dress in your everyday? She's known for her commitment to body positivity. And Janvi, in a second, we're going to come to you with questions about how you can adapt different styles that obviously work for models on the runway, but how do you adapt them to the everyday body? That's going to be what we ask you in a second. We're also joined by Muskan Rawat. Muskan is an influencer with a Pinteresty aesthetic, and Muskan has a knack for turning the ordinary into something extraordinary. She's here to talk about how even the quirkiest trends can be made into Pinterest-worthy styles. Let's go over to both of them to understand a little bit more. That was a hell of an introduction for both of you. Janvi, first let's just come to you to ask you, tell us first, what is
Alright.
ugly fashion? That's part one of the question. But I also want to understand, because I think this is more interesting, is ugly fashion a rejection of beauty, clean beauty, all these other aesthetics that told women that you have to be naturally beautiful? Is this essentially a screw you, no, we're going to do exactly what we are?
I personally feel like beauty and fashion in general is very subjective. So when it comes to like if we look at the past trends, right, back in the 50s, back in the 60s, 70s, if people really didn't challenge or, dare to change that and get in like new trends, would we have the recent trends today that we have? Like if no one really brought in those blingy colors, if no one really brought in those ripped jeans as well, which deemed to be ugly back then, but once they came into trend, everyone started loving them. So I feel like, these trends being ugly or beautiful, if they still define you and if they really are true to your style, I feel it still makes you very authentic, right? There is, and as soon as there are people coming in and judging you for what you're wearing and telling you that this is not what is, beautiful, or this is ugly or something, that's when you start being a little less authentic. So being true to any style, be it ugly or be it beautiful, that is subjective to one person, but being true to it, what is like, it'll make you authentic that way. So I guess that is the right approach to style.
Okay. Okay. Muskan, let me bring you in. And by the way, great shirt. Lovely to be twinning with the guest on air. So clearly stripes are there. I don't know if it counts as part of ugly fashion at all, but clearly they are here to stay. But just explain this to me a little bit. I'm not very clear about what this fashion trend is really all about. What is this really saying? Is it about a shock value? Is it about saying that you should just let it be how you are? Is it making a statement, or is it actually something that you will see people adopt?
So like Janvi said, that it is subjective, but I do feel like it adds on to the shock value, because sometimes even as audience you're just so bored of seeing the same thing. So people in general try to do something unique, try to do something unconventional, and that's what I think this is all about. And again, if you like it, if you feel like you can pull it off, if you think it's the new cool, then it can surely be that. And there are few trends which are termed as ugly, but then people pull it off in a way that it just turns out to be so good and so impressive. So I feel like kudos to them. I mean, pretty sure if me and Janvi were to be given some ugly trends, we would pull off some of them really well and blend them with our personal style, because I feel like it's not necessary that you see the trend and you take the trend as is. You can just blend it with your own style and just make sure that it's just going with your vibe. And yeah, that's what I fully feel like. Even stripes for that matter, they are in no way ugly. But if you pair them with some other print and if you just mix and match, it might feel like too much. But if you're, just doing it nicely, it might come off as something that's just a part of your personality, a part of your personal style.
Okay, very interesting. Let's go back to Janvi then and ask her, Janvi, we're in a world of micro trends, right? We're talking right now of ugly fashion, but in the last 1 year, you and I can discuss that there have actually been multiple trends in different waves that come in across the globe. So I just want to ask you, what is your advice to people who ask you, how can I find what my authentic style is? And I just want to ask you there, we're so used to centering ideas like sexy, ideas like hot, ideas like attractive, these words. But if one wanted to put those words away, not look at, looking like any of those words, and instead try to be their authentic self, what would that even mean? How do you go about it?
I think experimenting with everything is your real answer. If I were to think of just one thing and wear that constantly and not having to, try out different prints, different patterns or different styles for that matter, I wouldn't understand what really makes me feel confident. In the end, whatever you're wearing should make you feel like it is totally you. So in this world, like, how in the last year itself, we got so many trends coming in. Like you said, there were so many things with butter yellow coming in, with bows coming in. None of all of these things were not sexy or conventionally attractive that way. But it was a new category that we sort of got attracted to, and that was cute, coquette trends, all of these things, very Pinteresty trends again, right? That is something that the Gen Z really got attracted towards. So trying out, experimenting with new things until, like I said, until one really challenges the trends that are there currently and tries out something different, we're never going to come out of the same old thing. So if we're finding our own style, I feel like that's a very long journey again. But it's again achievable once you try out different things and understand what really makes you confident. Like if we talk about Ranveer Singh as well, right? Back in the days, he was someone who was wearing really quirky fashion, and if we would ever spot a Bollywood actor wearing the most quirkiest pieces, we could still assume from a distance that it would be Ranveer Singh, because he dared to come out. He had a distinct sense of style, and he was fearless about it. So I believe when even if the new trends are ugly to some people, it can come out as a very distinct personal style if you really are confident with it and if you experiment with your style.
Okay, so Muskan, what did you think of Naomi Osaka's outfit? She entered the US Open with this brat color, another trend that has been going the rounds. This trend actually made its way to the US elections. So there's a lot happening around there, and the croquettes, like she said, the bows and the rest of them also making a comeback. But I feel like every time a massive trend is used, it's basically for shock value. It's to tell the world that I've arrived. Is that the case?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, that as an audience, when you keep seeing a few trends over and over again, they sometimes do feel like repetitive. They feel like, okay, it's just another trend, everyone's gonna hop on it, and everyone's just gonna do it for a while, and then it's just gonna fade away. And for that, people do, hop on those trends. But then again, you can make it as an integral part of your personal style, and for that shock value as well. Because speaking for myself, if I am dressing a certain way for my audience, and then one day I decide to do something out of the box, out of the blue, it's gonna get more, attention. It's gonna be more interactive, even for my audience, and they're gonna feel like, okay, this is something new for us. We wanna know more about it. What is your thought on it? And something like that. So I do feel like when trends come in, you can, like I said before, just evolve them and make them a part of your personality, and that works really well.
Okay, very, very interesting advice. I do want to thank both of you, Muskan, Janvi. Thank you for joining us and providing this very, very unique look at how one can go about A, deciding what their own personal style needs to look like, but also B, incorporating these trends. You talked about how you take these big trends, incorporate them to some degree, but listen to your own inner voice. All right, thank you for joining us. Let's shift focus now. Speaking of Ranveer Singh, because we did mention him right now, and we're actually going to take you, though, from the world of fashion to a development in his own personal life. The power couple, Deepika Padukone and Ranveer Singh, they have an apartment that is reportedly nearing completion. It's in Bandra. Remember, it had made the news, it had made headlines years ago when they'd first made that purchase. Now we're seeing the first pictures. It's next door to Shah Rukh Khan's iconic bungalow, Mannat.
They plan to move into their new home after the birth of their child. We hear, and it's going to be a dream house, as is promised. Watch this video to know more about if this is also on trend or this is going to be true blue Ranveer style.
With a baby on the way, star couple Deepika Padukone and Ranveer Singh seem to be doing everything to ensure a safe, cozy and nice welcome for the little one. While we can't get enough of Deepika's stylish maternity looks yet, recent reports say they'll be moving into a spacious new apartment after the birth of their child. According to the reports, their new home is a sea-facing quadruplex located on Bandra Bandstand, close to Shah Rukh Khan's Mannat. Their dream home, we hear, occupies the 16th to 19th floors, spread across 11,266 square feet of interior space and an additional 1,300 square feet of private terrace. And this is the eyeball-grabbing part. It's reportedly worth over Rs 119 crore. Some reports also state Ranveer Singh partnered up with his father Jagjit Sundar Singh Bhavani's company to purchase this luxurious sea-facing quadruplex. This isn't Deepveer's first house together. The couple also purchased a bungalow in Alibag worth Rs 22 crore in 2021. Well, no wonder they are the it power couple. Deepika and Ranveer started dating in 2013 and tied the knot in 2018 in an intimate ceremony in Italy. They announced their pregnancy in March this year. Are you excited to welcome Deepveer's first child?
Next, we bring you a special segment on financial markets. It's powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. Let's take a look first at markets. GIFT Nifty trends indicate a firm start to Indian equity indices. US indices were mixed. This is as a fall in Nvidia's stocks offset the impact of a robust economic growth data set. Asian shares traded higher today. This is helped by a stronger than expected US GDP data. Crude oil and gold prices held on to recent gains. This is as the dollar remained soft.
All right, let's look at the sector in focus this morning. Organized retailing, a phenomena that is spreading beyond the metros. In fact, the growth opportunity is more meaningful in smaller towns and semi-rural areas as well. Retailers focused on the markets with their private label offering have long growth runway as well. You can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about India's organized retail sector and various other actionable insights on markets. It is a premier destination for all your investing views and financial insights you will ever need, brought to you by Money Control.
Okay, and with that, we are drawing our show to a close. We do hope you got some good romantic advice to start your morning with. Sonal, how different are the trends we're seeing today from what we saw just a few years ago in the dating market? It feels like a total change in just the way, the topography of the entire dating scene right now.
You know, Toya, throughout the show, you and I have been sort of talking over each other for some technical reason or the other, and it is just as chaotic as the dating scene of the day. And at the risk of sounding extremely ageist, let me just say this dating trend is not very old. It is just about 4 to 5 years. But it seems like, you know, like we said in our research as well, Gen Z or the older Gen Z, which is like, you know, kids in their 20s at the moment, they just don't know. They grew up with the mobile phones in their hand. This is all they know. So I think the pendulum is going to swing to the other side quite soon. And what this trend is actually gives you just an insight into that. They'll have an overload and then they'll sort of get back on. But like I said, very happy not to be in this dating scene any longer. On that note, enough of rambling. It's Friday, guys. Go out, and if dating gets your goat, then so be it. We will see you again on Monday.
Yeah, all the encouragement from us. All right, goodbye. Have a great weekend.
को रात को लाइट भी नहीं मिली है, खाना नहीं मिला है, तो इस एरिया में गुजरात सरकार और खास तौर पे केंद्र सरकार और यहाँ पे पीएम वैसे सीएम रह चुके हैं, तो वो चप्पा चप्पा जाता है तो जानते हैं गुजरात का, और गुजरात के चप्पे चप्पे जानने के हिसाब से और गुजरात के उद्योगपति से कोऑर्डिनेशन भी है, तो लगा यहाँ पे जिस तरीके से इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट की भी मदद मिल रही है, लोग इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट जो है वो खासतौर पे जो इम्पैक्टेड एरिया है वहाँ पे फूड भेजने का, सहाय भेजने का काम कर रहे हैं।
Hello and welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Well, now we are focusing on Gujarat, where rain-related incidents claimed 19 more lives in Gujarat, taking the death toll to 26 in 3 days. While around 17,800 people were evacuated from flood-affected areas as heavy showers lashed parts of the state for the fourth consecutive day on Wednesday. Districts in the Saurashtra region such as Devabhoomi, Dwarka, Jamnagar, Rajkot and Porbandar received heavy rainfall between 50 millimeters to 200 mm rains in the last 12-hour period ended at 6 p.m. Now, the IMD has predicted extremely heavy rains in the isolated parts of the districts in Saurashtra even today. Chief Minister has directed authorities on the ground to deploy cleaning equipments and spray disinfectants in Vadodara city as soon as the flood water starts receding. Now, the CM has also ordered the deployment of 5 additional teams of the NDRF and 4 army columns to assist the administration in rescue and relief operations in Vadodara.
खेड़ा के मातर तहसील का बलाड़ा गांव के जो सीम विस्तार है पूरा बाढ़ की वजह से पानी में पूरा घर का हो गया है। दृश्य आप दिख रहे हैं जिस प्रकार से कि जो घर मंदिर और सभी जगह पे अभी पानी है, जहां स्थल है वहां जल है। जिस प्रकार से आपको मैं दिखा रहा हूं इस प्रकार से कि जिस प्रकार से जो पूरा घर है वो पानी में अभी बाढ़ आने की वजह से पूरा घर का हो गया है। दूसरी तरफ आपको दृश्य दिखाऊंगा कि जो पूरा रास्ता है मगरोल से सैला को जोड़ने वाला रास्ता है, पूरा रास्ता पानी में गरका हो गया है और यहाँ के लोगों की परिस्थिति इतनी विकट हुई है कि उसका जो पूरा सामान है वो भी स्थलांतर करने की दिक्कत आई है। महत्व की बात की जाए तो संपूर्णपण से जो खेड़ा जिला का ये बलाड़ा गांव है वहां से न्यूज 18 गुजराती की टीम यहाँ पहुंची थी और इससे बात की तब जानना मालूम पड़ा कि 3 दिन से ऐसी परिस्थिति है और अभी तक यहाँ पर वहीवटी तंत्र भी नहीं पहुंचा है। वहां पे न्यूज 18 की टीम